Hello, this is Jay Stentz, your instructor, and this recorded presentation is Exceptional Mentoring Relationships. This recorded presentation corresponds with the handout that is posted on Blackboard. And so an overview of what this recorded presentation is going to cover is as such. We're going to define mentoring, look at benefits of mentoring, mentor responsibilities, characteristics of good mentors, 4 stages of mentoring, establishing mentoring boundaries, and then we're also going to look at how to make a mentoring relationship work. In terms of defining mentoring, I open this definition up with a pictorial diagram that I actually took from a management book. It is what I refer to as the Dunham and Pierce model. This model is actually used to describe leadership as a process, as a complex and dynamic process. However, I have overlaid it here with mentoring because I feel that a mentoring relationship operates in many ways much the same as leadership does, as a process indicative of interpersonal relationships between human beings. And so at the center of this diagram, you see the first circle that describes or represents the mentoring relationship itself. And then obviously you see a series of arrows that all point into and from that particular center circle, the mentoring relationship itself. The idea here is to identify mentoring as a relationship, as an interpersonal relationship between a mentor and a mentee. Um, Obviously, typically a dyadic relationship, a one-on-one relationship. But very complex in nature and dynamic, in that there are the major elements or components that make up a mentoring relationship is that of obviously the mentor, the mentee, the context or the situation, characteristics of the situation, and then also the benefits of the mentoring relationship. So, for example, maybe new skills, new ideas, maybe new networking contexts, maybe satisfaction of goals. Those are some potential benefits of mentoring, of being mentored and or mentoring someone else. As we look at how we define mentoring, we see that there are some major characteristics that make up mentoring as a relationship. One of the characteristics of a mentoring relationship, how we define it, is that it provides an opportunity for, obviously, for a mentor to share their existing knowledge, experience, and or expertise with their mentee. Well, much the same, there's an opportunity for you as a student or you as the mentee to learn from someone else, to learn from a mentor, someone that potentially has more knowledge and or experience than yourself, especially in a particular area or field. Typically, a mentoring relationship, as the research shows us, lasts for several years and oftentimes ends in friendship. So even though the mentoring relationship that you're going to partake in over the course of your MBA studies through Wesleyan might be short in some respects, it also may very well be a relationship that lasts into the coming years for you and may even end up in some form of a new friendship. Mentoring has really increased in popularity, really because we have been able to discover that there really are reciprocal benefits or mutual benefits that serve both the mentor and the mentee quite well in terms of their own development and success. And then also research shows us that mentoring relationships happen to be most effective when they last for at least a year. And in this case, I believe all of you are required to complete this 1 credit hour online course within the first couple of terms of your MBA program at Nebraska Wesleyan University. And so therefore, I would anticipate that you will be in this mentoring relationship for at least a year, if not longer, as you continue through your program of studies. In terms of the benefits of mentoring, there was some research done by Cooper and Miller back in 1998, and here's just a brief list of some of the major benefits that have been found to be true through that research for both mentors and mentees. As you can see from these 2 lists, The benefit of having exposure to new ideas shows up for both the mentor and the mentee. As well, for the mentor is the opportunity for a sense of accomplishment out of serving as a mentor. The mentor's ability to pass on their legacy, actually the mentor's ability to increase their own professional contacts through getting to know their mentee and developing that relationship, as well as using and refining their own interpersonal skills, enhancing their own reputation, having an opportunity for personal reflection themselves, and then obviously some satisfaction from enhancing their own profession should they mentor someone within their own occupation or profession. On the mentee side, a mentee's potential benefits from a mentoring relationship are really an increase in overall achievement through goal attainment and through the ability to take more risk in a supportive environment with the support of a mentor. An increase in self-confidence is a potential benefit for you as a mentee. Obtaining cultural insight has been found to be another benefit potentially of a mentoring relationship. And then obviously as a mentee, you have the opportunity to receive feedback and really a sense of stability as you take on more risk in the context of a mentoring relationship through goal attainment and things like that. Also, the mentee stands to increase their own list of professional contacts. They're increasing their social network, their social capital. And then obviously the ability to develop skills, both hard skills and soft skills. So an example of a hard skill might be maybe developing a greater level of skill towards strategic planning. Soft skill would be more along the lines of interpersonal skills, maybe more effective listening, active listening skills, communication skills in general, things like that. And then obviously through a mentoring relationship, a mentee has the opportunity to identify and target some of their own weaknesses. In terms of responsibilities for the mentor, a mentor does have the responsibility, keep this in mind as you choose a mentor and you begin to work with a mentor, of being caring, being trustworthy, and being helpful towards their mentee. Maintaining focus of the relationship on development of the mentee's full potential. Acting as a coach or a role model, definitely using active listening skills in the context of that mentoring relationship. And then really a mentor has a responsibility to provide guidance, advice, and assistance as needed to their mentee. A mentor also has a responsibility to be forthcoming and sharing their own experiences and really being transparent about their own challenges that they face. Those are all learning opportunities, really, both for mentor and mentee. And then another responsibility for the mentor is to help a mentee define and close the gap between their current and their desired reality. A lot of this comes into play as you begin to problem solve, work with goal attainment and things like that. Oftentimes we know where we're at now. We need some help framing that. And then, of course, we know where we would like to be, that desired reality. And so a mentor is there to really help you kind of define that gap and begin to find ways to effectively close that gap, make reality, desired reality come true. Another responsibility for a mentor is to assist their mentee with goal setting, both for professional and personal success as you deem appropriate in your individual mentoring relationship. We know that success can be best achieved or enhanced through the mentor helping their mentee arrive at very well-defined goals. Many of you have probably heard of SMART goals, and that's really what we're referring to here. Is that a great responsibility of the mentor is to help their mentee identify and attain or achieve the SMART goals that they establish for themselves. Some characteristics of good mentors. One of the things that you're going to do in this class online is you're going to, at some point a little bit further into the term, you're going to work with developing your own mentoring or mentor criteria, the criteria by which you would like to select a mentor for yourself. And so you might keep in mind some of these characteristics or come back and maybe look at these characteristics again when you get to that phase in the term where you begin to develop criteria around a selection process for yourselves as you select a mentor. So one of the things that you look for in a mentor is their desire to serve as a mentor. Also, do they have the subject matter or the knowledge that you're looking for? And it might be organizational knowledge, it might be special knowledge towards a particular skill or industry. If you're selecting someone that it's important to you that they value the mission and work of the organization that you work for currently, or maybe an organization that you aspire to work for, it might be important to look at a mentor who values that mission and that work of that particular organization or even industry. Does the mentor care about and treat others with respect? That would be an important characteristic in a good mentor for you. A mentor who's tolerant, non-judgmental, accepting of differences. Differences can be anything from personality to ethnicity, gender. There are a lot of different ways that we are different at different levels of our individuality. But it may be important to you to look for a mentor who is very tolerant or open-minded. Confidence. The importance of selecting a mentor who's confident, and that confidence could be obviously self-confidence. It could be confidence in their mentoring abilities. It could be confidence in a particular line of industry or a particular line of work. Or again, confidence around a particular grouping or uh, particular skills. And how about a mentor who's capable of creating a comfortable context? Remember in the Dunham and Pierce diagram that I showed you very early on in this presentation, context is important to the mentoring relationship. Does the mentor that you're selecting, or how important is it to you that you have a mentor who's capable of creating a very comfortable context with which you will work with that individual? Hopefully you can find a mentor who enjoys actually seeing their mentee develop and grow. And a mentor who is sensitive to you as the mentee's needs. Trust. Trust is a very important aspect of leadership, as well as trust is a very important aspect of a good, effective mentoring relationship. So one of the criteria that you may choose is to identify a mentor who you perceive you can develop a very strong, trusting relationship with. And then the importance of finding a mentor that you perceive as being successful themselves. That may be a characteristic that you look for, or criteria that you look for in another mentor. Here we turn to some research by Zachary back in 2000. Um, and what they found in this research was that there's really 4 stages to every mentoring relationship. Stage 1 is referred to as preparing. And the preparing stage is the most critical stage of a mentoring relationship. And this is where you establish the mentoring relationship. In the context of this 1 credit hour online course, towards the end of the 5-week term, so during probably weeks 4 and 5, you're going to be asked to execute a mentoring agreement. So by that time, in the 5-week term, you will have been expected to have not only designed your mentoring criteria, but to have actually selected a mentor, reached out to that individual, and hopefully retained them as a mentor by that time. And at that point, then you would execute a mentoring agreement with them and submit that through Blackboard ultimately. So a very critical stage of the mentoring relationship is that very first preparing stage. Stage 2 is the negotiating stage. This is really where you're going to probably meet with your mentor for the first time, maybe immediately following this 5-week term. It is possible, depending upon how far you get during this 5-week term, especially during the last couple of weeks, whether or not you actually meet with your mentor for the first time. Some students choose to meet with their mentor for the very first time in order to execute the mentoring agreements. Others may execute that mentoring agreement electronically through email and so forth. But that stage 2, that negotiating stage, is a lot about meeting with that mentor. It may even be by telephone or by email, and discussing how your learning will occur in the context of that mentoring relationship. And really, at that point, starting to develop some framework around how you will measure the success of that mentoring relationship. So one of the other things that you're going to do, and this slide is incorrectly labeled PLP. What that's supposed to be is PDP, standing for or representing personal development plan. One of the things that you're going to do early on in the first week or 2 of this online course is you're going to take what's referred to as the MLQ 30, and that is an online assessment that is going to give you really kind of an overview of skills that you already have in the context of both leadership and management, and skills that you might choose to work on developing that may not necessarily be your areas of strength, depending upon what you perceive to be your greatest needs. That this stage two negotiating stage would be a good place for you to share that personal development plan with your mentor and begin to frame what are the particular skills and competencies and behaviors that you would like to further develop, and start to talk about how that mentor it can help you measure your success with developing those skills and competencies and or behaviors identified in your personal development plan. Stage three, the enabling stage of the mentoring relationship, is really about um, really kind of the heart of the mentoring relationship itself. This is where you really begin to meet with your mentor at least once a month. I think the Wesleyan program requires you to meet with your mentor once a month. Again, whether that's face to face, which probably is preferable to most of you, or by phone or Skype, whatever is agreeable and effective for you as a mentee and your mentor is capable of providing. This is the meat and potatoes, the heart of the mentoring relationship, where the mentor actually provides you with the challenge, the support, and the encouragement to work towards attaining the goals that you've established for yourself. And then the final stage of the mentoring relationship, the coming to closure stage. This oftentimes is the most difficult stage for mentees because of the fact that really a mentoring relationship is a highly goal-oriented process. It's always going to have a beginning and an ending point. And so, although you may step away from this mentoring relationship with a new friend, maybe even a lifelong friend from this point forward, your mentoring relationship itself will more than likely have a beginning and an end to it. And very likely that end point might be the end of your program of study in your MBA program. But we just refer to that final stage as the coming to closure, but no doubt a very important final stage of the mentoring relationship itself. It's also important to establish boundaries, really, for both the mentor and the mentee, to establish boundaries in the context of the mentoring relationship. And what Mintzmoyer and Thomason found in their research back in 1998 is that the best time to establish those boundaries are at the beginning of the mentoring relationship. So definitely stage one, if not stage two. So, as you are establishing the mentoring agreement with your mentor in the last couple of weeks of this course, you might want to go ahead and start to communicate with your mentor about your expectations as a mentee. Maybe share with your mentor what your previous experience is. Share a little bit about your own attitudes, your own experiences in terms of your professional levels that you've held. May also at that point in time um, tap into your mentor's existing knowledge and really start to gain some insight into that. That is part of establishing boundaries at the very beginning. So it sort of sets up the expectations, provides you both with a synopsis or a picture of each other's background and the strengths and challenges that you may both bring to the mentoring relationship. And then for sure, discuss with your mentor um, a comfort level. Establish that comfort level, both in a personal and a professional context. So when you get together with your mentor once a month and you have these mentoring meetings that make up the mentoring relationship, you know, what are you comfortable as a mentee addressing? Are you comfortable addressing goals that pertain to your personal life, or do you want to strictly keep it just about your professional life? Make sure you are transparent with your mentor about that, and then also gain some insight into what your mentor is comfortable with as well. And again, doing that early on allows you to make sure that you have selected a good mentor for yourself and have set yourself up for success with that mentoring relationship. Some additional research done a little bit later in 2006 by Place and Bailey found really a level of importance for, again, clearly defining the mentor's role early on in the mentoring relationship. So discuss that openly with your mentor. What kind of a role shall that person play in your life? In other words, maybe in terms of accountability, what role would you like your mentor to play in terms of helping you remain accountable to the goals that you establish for yourself? How proactive and actively involved do you need them to be? Do you need them to send you emails periodically in between mentoring meetings? Do you need to have the ability to contact them freely between mentoring meetings? Just really talk about defining the role that you expect from your mentor, that you need from your mentor, and make sure early on, again, as you're establishing those boundaries during stage one of the mentoring relationship, that the mentor you've selected can actually fulfill the role that you need them to. And again, some research by Greer and Smith in 1995, they looked at how to best make mentoring work most effectively. And so they found in their research that some of the characteristics of the most effective mentoring relationships were that these relationships were very personal and very confidential, that there was a high level of confidentiality between the mentor and the mentee, and that good mentors provided both adequate challenge and support and not too much advice, which might be surprising because you would probably think of mentoring as a lot about offering advice, but that needs to be tempered according to the research that Greer and Smith did. I would say that when you provide both challenge and support, it's a lot about balancing challenge and support. Much like the way we know we learn best when we're giving adequate or balanced amounts of both challenge and support. And the best ways to make a mentoring relationship most effective is for a mentor to help build the mentee's confidence and also their independence through using a goal setting process and a process of accountability. And then the structure and frequency of the meetings need to be based on both the mentor's and the mentee's needs. So, for example, at each mentoring meeting that you hold, it's highly encouraged that you establish the next meeting time before the end of each meeting, instead of stepping away from that meeting and saying, we'll reach out to each other at a later point in time to schedule the next meeting. Take the time to do that at the end of each of your mentoring meetings. And then some things, like making sure that the mentor is okay with you reaching out to them between meetings. It has been found that to make mentoring most effective, the mentor should be reachable between formal mentoring meetings. And then really the best most effective mentoring relationships are those where both the mentor and the mentee have a sense of satisfaction and growth from the relationship itself. So much like what I teach in leadership courses about the reciprocal effect of good follower leader relationships are mutual reciprocal influence. So when you have a healthy, effective leader-follower relationship, what you see in those is you see that influence goes both ways. And so in the case of mentoring, a good, effective mentoring relationship, the sense of satisfaction and growth is reciprocal between both mentor and mentee. So you're going to see, ignore the dates here. This will be an assignment that I will update for you in Blackboard through an announcement in an automatically pushed email. And so it may not be necessarily, well, it actually will be in weeks 4 and 5 folder. The last 2 weeks of the term, you're going to review an article and write a reflection. And then at some point, and it probably will be during week 4, but it possibly might be during week 3, you will complete an activity that is referred to as managing risk, engaging resources, and goal planning. And this is an activity that is intended for you to practice before the course is over in such a way that you are able to take the framework from that activity into your mentoring relationship. So you might take the fruits of that activity, the results of it, which likely may result in a specific goal or small number of goals that you want to work on in the context of your mentoring relationship, or it might be that you take the framework for this activity and you reuse it in your mentoring relationship all over again. Again, ignore these dates that are in here. And then we will have a discussion forum likely during weeks 4 and during week 3 or 4. But again, ignore the dates in here. I just want to get across to you that you're going to actually participate in a goal planning activity that is intended for you to take into your mentoring relationship. And then this just had a reminder on there that when we get to week 5, you're going to have a mentor agreement and an online mentor application that will be due. Again, I will remind you and correct those dates for you when we get closer to weeks 4 and 5 in the term that begins shortly. Here we are at the end of this recorded presentation. Again, this is just intended to kind of open your mind up to mentoring as a relationship, mentoring as a reciprocal relationship that offers benefits to both the mentor and the mentee, and to really frame your mind around the idea of this mentoring relationship as being a very goal-oriented process for you in terms of defining your current reality, where you are today, and where you'd like to be. And the idea that you are going to take an assessment that will look at some of your leadership and or management skills and help you identify if there are some skills or behaviors that you would like to further strengthen, or maybe some that you would like to develop that you currently don't show necessarily a strength in. So this is the end of this presentation, and I thank you for your time.